Hi, this is Michelle Leahy with Reedy Press. Today I'm joined by JoAnn Kargus. JoAnn has been a commercial artist and illustrator in St. Louis for over 35 years, but she's drawn her entire life. Her work ranges from quick market sketches to photorealistic renderings. She has also commissioned portraits and murals that are displayed throughout the city. JoAnn is the author, artist of our St. Louis Splendor, Cardinal Splendor, and Route 66 Splendor. JoAnn, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
JoAnn, coloring is such a big deal for a lot of people right now. Talk about a couple of the benefits of coloring while we're all stuck inside.
Well, I think coloring has been, once it got popular from the first artist who made her books in England, it just kind of took off around the world, and clubs started up, and even some doctors talked about the benefits of coloring, where it lets you, if you're feeling anxious, it lets you focus on something other than what you're worried about, and you can think about, oh, your biggest problem is deciding what color to color something. And
Sure.
you can just kind of get away from the things that are bothering you. And then it's very relaxing. As long as you don't worry too much about the end product being perfect like the Mona Lisa, just enjoy and color slowly. And then if you don't like what you do, and you just start over on another page.
St. Louis Splendor was your first book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so beautiful with the gardens on the front. I just love it.
Yeah,
How
thank you.
did you choose the places that you decided to draw and put in this book?
Well, when I was asked to draw, an illustrator friend of mine, Ed Kaler, actually gave me the lead to talk to Josh, the publisher. And because I was an architectural illustrator primarily, um, I spoke with Josh, and we kind of talked about what we thought would be important to show in St. Louis, and we talked about like how far out from the city would we go. So I just really tried to get some of the most popular landmarks in St. Louis, and the ones I thought would be more interesting to draw, because there are a lot of landmarks that maybe, a building might just be kind of a boring shape. So, or if maybe the outside was boring, I chose to do something on the inside. And Josh did have a couple of locations that he wanted to be in the book specifically, because he was fond of going there, like this little neighborhood music joint that I'd never even heard of. But I also picked places that were important to me from my childhood,
Sure.
remembering going to the zoo and, the typical things. The most important, well, I found an aerial view of the downtown view of St. Louis with the arch in the foreground. And I thought, that's really good, because it represents, everyone thinks of the arch, but just a picture of an arch by itself would have been kind of boring. So the aerial view with all the skyline buildings behind it
Yeah,
became more interesting.
sure. And then Route 66 was your second, is that right?
Yeah, Route 66 was second, and I kind of talked to Josh and said, hey, I've always loved Route 66. I was in a Route 66 group and some clubs on the Facebook group interaction, and when people drive the whole route, there's some super iconic landmarks. So I was already thinking I wanted to draw like this one, the Hackberry General Store, because this is a famous place in Arizona. And then in St. Louis, like Ted Drew's ice cream, like everybody loves Ted Drew's as St. Louis anyway, but it also is on Route 66. So that one I had actually already drawn. So I came up with some other, I tried to do it east to west, state by state. So that kind of dictated the division of the book. So it starts in Illinois and Chicago, and it goes all the way through California, and it ends on the pier.
And
So
I love the divider pages that you put in, like the state collage that starts the state. I think that is so great.
yeah, and some of those are really nice, because it's almost like a combination of an old time postcard
Yeah.
and a few little landmarks in the shape of the state. So that kind of it was similar to having like a chapter beginning for each section of the book.
Mhm.
But those were nice enough because it was like a composition vignette and people could color those. Well, any of these couldn't be taken out of the book and framed because they had the perforated pages on it. But I just thought this would look cool if somebody had like a Route 66 room or something that they could do the state by state and frame them all and line them all up together.
Sure. Well,
Mhm.
and that's something to mention as well. Whether you want to color these pages or not, they are, it's beautiful artwork that could be taken out and framed as is.
Thanks.
Your
Well,
drawings are amazing.
one of the nicest ladies when I was doing the St. Louis promotion, she bought several books and she was going to send one to each of her grandchildren and write a little note um, on each of the places that she had gone with her grandchildren and say, remember when we went here, or, you know, this was
Oh,
your favorite thing about the zoo, or whatever page happened to be. And then she kind of personalized it. And she didn't color the pages. I've had few people tell me that they buy it just as more of like a souvenir book to
sure.
remind them, you know, maybe it's a man and a wife and their daughter has gotten a job and they're out of town, so they have bought this book to send to her as a like a memento of St. Louis.
Yeah, that's the cool thing. It's a coloring book, it's a souvenir, and it's a beautiful art book.
Yeah, it's a
And
nice.
then Cardinal Splendor was the last one, right? We're all
Oh
kind of
yeah.
itching for
Oh
baseball. So talk to
yeah.
us about this one.
Yeah, I think it was like it was. I've been a Cardinal fan all my life, and from a little kid getting to go with my family and watch games, and my favorite players, like Lou Brock was one of my favorite players, and then Willie McGee more recently. Um, so I asked Josh if we could do the Cardinals next, and he said yes. So flipping through, I thought um, I started, I think, loving baseball so much by playing softball. So my first page is how it all began, and it shows, you know, a typical scene of gloves and balls and bats, you know, at a neighborhood field. And then I just tried to make some pages more interesting, like designs. And then I chose to do the stadiums and then some individual players. Oh, I like this page too. This is opening day where they always have the Clydesdales going around the field.
Oh,
So
yeah.
this is one that I colored when I would do a book promotion tour. I'd have samples
Beautiful.
of, you know, how to make it look more realistic. I mean, it doesn't have to be realistic, but then the rest of the pages are just different things I thought were important. Probably more of a variety of like there's Stan the Man page. A lot of these guys are, some of them are on the, well, there's Lou Brock because he's so fast. Um, a lot of them are the statues that are actually out in front of the stadium. And then I just filled it up. There's some old, my brother-in-law is a super Cardinal fan, and I called him and actually said, you know, as a book for the Cardinals, what would be important to put? So he gave me some ideas of historic and famous events, you know, in the team's history. So it even though I'm a fan, I'm kind of a casual fan. I don't know all the facts, so
Sure.
I feel like I caught some of the important things in the whole history of the team.
Yeah. Well, you are a wonderful artist. Not all of us are.
Oh,
Do you have any tips for coloring? Maybe a couple of tips for coloring that you could share with us for when we grab your book? We could make it
oh,
look as
sure,
beautiful.
sure. And I'm going to just hold this up because this is something that I had from doing the book events, and
Sure.
I would invite people to come, and if they could just sit and color if they wanted to, or if they bought a book, I always gave out a little page of tips. So some of the important easy things to remember is if it's a scene with the sky, you want to have your horizon lighter, and then the blue gets deeper and deeper as it goes up to the top of the sky, just kind of like in real life. If you look out, typically the horizon is distant clouds and it's almost like a white or a super light blue, and then it gets darker as it goes up. And then make your colors, color your strokes in the shape of the contour of what you're coloring. So for dirt and for grass, well, dirt and this, you know, mixture of rocks and dirt, all the strokes would be sideways.
Mm-hmm.
And then like these little wood board planks on this porch, well, they come out at an angle. So you would do shorter strokes that would help suggest the direction of the wood. And then on this building, it's this corrugated metal. So you wouldn't color side by side, you'd color up and down. And that all those little brush strokes kind of help give an explanation of what the surface is. I always color light and then work my colors up dark. So if you have a chance, I like to start with a light marker and then apply color pencil over it as shading. Or some people don't want to mix colored pencil and markers and they just do all colored pencils. So also make your farther away colors light first, like the trees would be lightest green farther away, and then work your way forward and make it darker and darker green. And that helps show far away is always a lighter color and coming closer is always a little bit darker. So those are pretty simple tips to remember.
Great.
Light is far away, deeper is close up.
Yeah, okay, wonderful. So JoAnn, how can we, well, let me just first say that I know that several stores around town are still open and doing curbside pickup. And I know places like Christopher's and Abigail's and Left Bank Books and Novel Neighbor, those places are all carrying your books and offering curbside pickup. We also have them available on reedypress.com. I believe that we have a special with all 3 of your books. If somebody buys all 3 of your books, they get a discount. That is on reedypress.com. And can you share with us how to connect with you? Let's say somebody has questions or wants to get an autographed copy or coloring tips for your book.
Okay, well, I have a website. It shows my books as well, but it also has samples of all my artwork. I've done the architectural work and the mechanical drawings and portraits and murals. So if they go to JoAnnKargus.com, it's JoAnnKargus.com. There's a how to contact, and my email is rjkargus@aol.com. So you know how there's the top and it has all the different categories. There's a way of connecting. And but I do ask if somebody wants to buy it, they can also go to Reedy Press and order through there, because I'm not going right now. I'm not going to the post office. I'm pretty much staying home. My studio is upstairs, so, and I have computer access to still stay in touch with some of my clients for other projects, but pretty much trying to stay at home and flatten the curve.
Absolutely, yes. But somebody can go on your website to see your beautiful work.
Yeah. Well, please
Right.
do. Yeah, because I take all kinds of commissions. And if someone wanted to send me an email with questions about coloring, I could try and correspond back and forth. But mostly, and as far as some of these landmarks, especially in the St. Louis book, if you have access to a computer, anybody can Google like Climatron, St. Louis, Missouri, and then you'll get like 100 photos of the Climatron. If you want to try and color it realistically, just use those images as a guide and then match up the colors with your colored pencils and your markers.
Another great tip.
Yeah, any of these landmarks and just in any of these books.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. JoAnn, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your beautiful work with us. I'm looking forward to getting some coloring done myself.
Thank you very much. And everyone stay safe and wash your hands a lot, okay?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.